This is a time of great change on our planet. We are at a crossroads, dismantling the old paradigm of fear and survival as we give rise to the paradigm of feminine sovereignty. Without it, we continue on a path of destruction. Without it, we may not survive as a species. Hi, I'm Leonor and Murciano-Luna, spiritual healer, teacher, author, and holistic doctor. I am devoted to the feminine and to generational ancestral healing in women.
My name is Michele Pedersen, and I am a women's transformational life and wellness coach, author, healing arts practitioner, and advocate for empowered birth, living, and soul-aligned self-care.
And together, we invite you on this journey, the next evolution in human consciousness, the conscious feminine revolution, to explore the feminine paradigm with us and become conscious of how the feminine is awakening within you. Remember, you were born for these times. Welcome to the Conscious Feminine Revolution podcast. We are so glad you are here. Hi, and welcome. Welcome to our first episode of Conscious Feminine Revolution. I am Leonor Murciano-Luna.
And I am Michele Pedersen.
Yes, and we are so excited that you're here with us and excited to begin this podcast of the Conscious Feminine Revolution and everything that is going on in our world at this time. There is definitely a revolution happening. There's definitely a revolution.
Absolutely.
We begin today by really diving into this subject of what is this feminine revolution, as we're calling it, and what is the feminine principle, and demystifying it a little bit so that we understand it on a very, very practical terms. Our tagline is the next evolution of human consciousness. And I truly believe that it is the next evolution, that this is we're at a crossroads. And I mean, this is not just my thinking or our thinking. This is really the thinking that has been passed down the generations from many spiritual teachings. A lot of the different ancient wisdom teachings have really talked about this time, this great change, and this shift that is happening. And we're seeing it all around us. We're seeing it in the crisis of the earth. We're seeing it in the crisis of our world in so many different ways, and our own personal crisis of how we feel. And in the last 2 years, we can't deny that there's something really big happening, and something really big is needed to shift us into the new consciousness to move forward. And this is where this conscious revolution of the feminine comes in, where we really want to talk about and have a deeper conversation about the feminine principle and what the feminine principle is and why it's the medicine that we're all needing to meet our needs and it's the answer for, to survive as a species. It's the answer so that we shift the trajectory of destruction that we're in, personally, globally, collectively, and of course with the earth.
And as I'm hearing you share about this and how, like, how does this come in to activate this leap in consciousness that is necessary for us to sort of traverse this time period, this transitional point in time? I feel like, it's literally like embodying this consciousness and exploring what that feels like and what that looks like and how that shows up on a practical level, like you said. And looking at the earth not as something that is separate from us, but as looking at the earth as if as an extension, as a reflection of our own bodies, and to really bring back the reverence for what this is and what this means, and to begin to treat our bodies with reverence and the earth that supports us with reverence. And just talking about a little bit more about what that means. And we talk about destruction, and we talk about crisis, and we talk about survival, and within that, it's all perfect. It's like it's all perfectly unfolding. It's all in alignment. It's just the polarization of where we're heading. In order to really see where we're heading, it's like really acknowledging where we are now, and what we're observing, but also seeing beyond that. Because in my experience, there truly is no death, and so we talk about destruction and survival and all of those things. What does that really mean, in terms of, in the context of where we are, and what's wanting to come in and be embodied more fully, in terms of the divine feminine consciousness that both men and women carry.
Yes, absolutely. And embodiment is one of the key principles of the feminine, because the medicine, as I was talking earlier, the medicine of the feminine principle, I believe it is already, talked about and brought into our consciousness that this is the next evolution. This is what we're all missing. This is the kind of the common denominator that we're missing, to kind of bring us to the next level of evolution on this planet. And the embodiment piece is really about realizing that if we look at this feminine principle as the aspect of divinity, the aspect of our soul essence, the aspect of the unseen, and bringing that back in, as you mentioned, the sacredness of ourselves, the sacredness of everything that is in creation, which is what we've lost. We've been living in a paradigm of separation. We've been living in a paradigm of survival, because in our consciousness, not in reality, but in our consciousness, the way that we see, the way that we perceive, the way that we live, the way that we believe things are, there's a split. There's a split that we've inherited, from the, we would say, the distorted yang energy, the distorted survival paradigm, that's been happening for the last 5,000 to 7,000 years on our planet. And we've inherited these beliefs. And the beliefs is, in a nutshell, because we can go on about these, is that we are separate from the divine, that the divine is elsewhere, that it's up there in the sky, in the heavens, in the other realms, in the godly realms, and that all of creation, including human beings and the planet herself, etc., are devoid, devoid of essence, devoid of this divinity. And this paradigm of the feminine is really, we call it the feminine, but it's really about the soul, the essence, about the divine. It's the hidden. It's that yin energy. And it's about giving rise to that, acknowledging and embodying that reality within us, seeing that we are that consciousness. As you were saying, Michelle, at the beginning, that there, from that perspective, there's no death, right? That what dies is really the material form, but that is also that transforms into then giving rise to giving birth to something new. But this whole embodiment piece of coming into union with the divinity that has been split in our own minds, in our own consciousness. So we have been believing that we're separate. And when we believe that we're separate, we as human beings have moved into domination, into survival, into conquering, to feel safe, to get more, into competition. And that's been the whole distortion. And that gives rise to this whole paradigm of survival and fear. Because in reality, we've been separated, again, in our minds, in our consciousness, because there's really no separation, but we have been living as such. And when that separation occurs, we're being separated in our minds from the source of love, the source of safety, the source of joy, of fulfillment. And when we're separated from that in our psyches, what happens is we project that outside. So we look for joy, we look for happiness, we look for fulfillment, we look for all of our needs outside of ourselves. And that has created this whole culture of domination, of me versus you, because this place that informs us that we're all in it together, that there's oneness, as we've seen very clearly in the last 2 years with, our state of health, in the world, in this global pandemic. We've seen very clearly that we each affect each other. There really, at the core, there is no separation, and we're all in it together. However, we've been in that spell, if you may, in that belief system, in that paradigm, and that paradigm has led us to this place of crisis in so many ways. And so the feminine principle, this principle that says you carry the sacredness within you, the divine God, goddess, is not outside of yourself. It's within you, and it's within every single aspect of creation. It's within the plants, it's within the rocks, it's within the oceans, it's within all of it. It's in every single animal, it's every single cell. There's this divinity, consciousness, and it's about reclaiming that. And as we do that, we reclaim our sense of community. We reclaim our sense of oneness, of compassion, of understanding that whatever we're doing to the earth or to each other is just going to have a ripple effect back to us. It's like, in essence, we're doing it back to ourselves. And I know that sounds a little esoteric and metaphysical, but that is the reality of consciousness.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And there's ways to feel that, like you said, with the embodiment. So it's about really embodying the sacredness within us and all of the ways that we can do that.
Yeah. And gosh, there's so much. I mean, we can go off in so many different directions. I love metaphors. I love things like, I think you used this metaphor in one of our, inspiring discussions recently, and that was the sun. It's like we are not separate from the sun. We are just extensions. We are rays, of that sun, or we're waves in the ocean, but we are the ocean. We contain the ocean. We are the sun. We contain the sun, and it's reactivating what has been asleep in us, reawakening that, realizing that's like the conscious, bringing what's in the unconscious to the conscious. It's like the rising of the feminine. the embodied soul that we already are, that is already within us. It's moving
Mm-hmm.
from doing to being. It's moving from, accessing our power from outside of ourselves to going within for that wisdom. I use birth, as a metaphor, because I work
Mm-hmm.
with women and birthing, and shifting that paradigm through the birth process, so that reminding, reactivating that memory, it has the opportunity to get reactivated during that time in a woman's life, whether she's pregnant or she's birthing. Something gets reactivated around that's been latent, that's been asleep. And when birth is unmedicated, there is more access to that opportunity to connect with that truth, to connect with the feminine consciousness that is accessed within us, when we do not defer outside of us, to receive our power. We don't defer our birth to something outside of ourselves. We are birthing, we are being birthed from that conscious, feminine light and energy.
Yeah, absolutely. And it awakens, this aspect that you were saying, that is within us. It's so important to realize that this is a shift in our consciousness, that our reality of our divine self is already there. It's always there. It's already animating us. It's already, there is no, on one level, there is no separation. And on the other level, we are, believing and acting as if there is. And when we tune in, to our bodies, we can start to remember, we can start to activate, the reality, the truth, what we already know on the deeper soul level. And then that starts to inform us, right? So this paradigm of the feminine is a lot about starting to trust the wisdom that's in our body and allowing that to keep us moving, informing us, not using just our intellectual capacity, but going deep into our heart, into our soul wisdom, into our womb wisdom, and tuning in and listening to the whispers of the wisdom that's within you, of that place of oneness where the universal wisdom is. And we are, like you said, an array of that sunlight, and everybody feels different. Everybody gets to express that ray of light in different ways on this planet. That's part of what we're here to do. And so sometimes we may not see that mirrored outside, and we think, oh, there's something wrong with us because nobody's saying this or talking about that, or I feel this particular way. And, this whole feminine shift, this feminine principle is about honoring what your truth is, what your light is, what your expression wants to say or do or act, from this place of love, from this place of feeling the safety, and from this place of source within you, so that it's not coming out of fear or projecting or separation or domination. It's more about, from this place of love, what is it that I want to express? Finding your purpose, finding your meaning in life. We're in this separation paradigm where we have not felt, very fulfilled. Even as we're doing more and more and more and more in the world, we're still feeling very unfulfilled and we're still feeling empty. And the reason for that is because we have disconnected from our soul, from our essence, from our divine nature.
Mm-hmm.
And that is truly the medicine. In psychological terms, they have called the soul, we talk about it in terms of the yin or the feminine aspect, because it is the unseen. It's that which you have to go inward to connect with all the way in. And it's a very deep, intimate experience to connect with this aspect of yourself, the soul. And so, when we talk about the feminine soul, we're really talking about um, connecting with this energy. And of course, in women, comes out very differently than in men. But I think we're going to, kind of talk about that in a whole other episode. We really have the time to cover that today. But I will say that the feminine principle is also, along with the embodiment piece, is also about connecting and allowing ourselves to connect with our emotional intelligence. Along with the body piece and the body wisdom is also this emotional intelligence that we have shamed, that we've repressed. That women, in their natural ability to connect with that realm easier than men in general, not everyone, but it's, just a matter of also the hormonal balances that allow women to have a different experience within themselves, have been under a lot of trauma around their emotional body. And there's this whole field of shame that's part of this survival paradigm that we're learning to clear. We're learning to really be able to embody and let it do what emotions are supposed to do, which is another way of perceiving the world and of perceiving our relationship with the world. And there, if we allow our emotions to actually move through us, it's just moving through energy levels, and they're not good or they're not bad. Sometimes we feel them, and there could be pleasant emotions and, of course, unpleasant emotions. And yet, feeling a lot of emotions. I know a lot of women come to me and they're very, sensitive, and they've been shamed for the sensitivity, including myself, and yet a lot of us can feel, especially on a full moon, we could feel all of the energies, not just ourselves, but the collective, and there's so much energy there. There's so much repressed emotions from all of this shaming that's gone on for 5,000 plus years, that, it can be overwhelming. And it's about really allowing us a space to, to not judge ourselves, to clear that judgment, clear that shame, and feel, because it allows us, our emotions allow us to come into the present moment, to move out of our heads, of our overthinking, of our obsession with strategizing to feel safe and strategizing in the world to get more, and all of that we go into. And it's like it allows us, it's another tool that we have, innate tool that allows us to come into this present moment and feel the truth of it, the joy, the love, what is here in this present moment.
Yeah. Well, that's perfect. It's a perfect segue into the embodiment practice that we're going to do at the end of this, and being connected with your body, and connecting with what you are feeling and what you are sensing in your body. That's the portal. That's the opening, where the journey is about moving from the mind in separation through the heart, through the higher heart, into the soul, through our body, and through the womb. That's a whole other conversation, that womb journey. And Yes, instead of that disembodied. I used to think in like the teachings from years and years ago when I would meditate, it was all about going up and out. And I had this brilliant teacher share with me about the journey that it's actually about embodying the divine. And that's the return of the conscious feminine. It's the embodiment of that divine feminine, our soul. And I like to teach that through soul aligned self-care, that whole journey. It's a process. It's not like an event. And so this podcast serves to really open us to that opportunity, and also in an experiential way. So we've given you the teachings and the transmissions, and then we're going to then take it a step further to help you more fully embody what you've received here today.
Yes, and we're going to do a little process of really coming into, the connection with this soul dimension, because we really think about it, as we're here incarnated, the place where we can feel our soul is in our body. It's through a sensation in our body. And, again, our bodies have been, again, to use the same word, shame. I have a feeling we're going to be using that word a lot. And demonized, and because it's been seen as it's devoid from spirituality. And so, again, we've disconnected from even our ability to feel the divine within us, to feel our soul. It is a really important piece to reconnect with our bodies and be able to start to trust our bodies and trust what we're feeling. And, every time that we label it as something wrong with us, or, we start to feel uncomfortable with it, instead of, running and distracting ourselves, the medicine is to actually go right into it and feel and give yourself that time, that attention, that awareness to come deep into your womb, come deep into the centers in your body that are expressing to you, that didn't have the opportunity to be expressed before because it wasn't safe, whether it was in your family upbringing, or in our feminine lineage of thousands of years that we've been under that suppression. The women in our family have experienced so much trauma, and that's actually still going on in very subtle levels in our world today. And in some places it's actually very, very strong. But it's like what we're doing is we're awakening. We're awakening to these truths, these realities that have been under this spell. And one of the reasons why we called it conscious feminine revolution is because it's really important that we become conscious of this reality, letting the conditioning that we've inherited, the trauma that's in our feminine lineage that we've experienced, and that we've personally experienced. It's not just our personal, but also collective trauma, to start to heal by us stepping into our sovereign inherent power, which is really sourced in our divine nature.
Yay, I'm so excited to do this process, to really, give everybody a taste of what it is to come home to ourselves in our own body, and
Yeah.
to reactivate, um, our soul that's seeking to be heard and to express itself. We are a soul, and we are wearing this body, and this body
Mhm.
enables us to
Yeah.
express our soul, but we are not this body. We are not our thoughts. We are not our emotions. And so in that coming home and that return
Mhm.
to this consciousness that, as you said, Nora, it's like really activating and awakening that within our own bodies, sourcing from within rather than from without. All that we need is available to us when we develop this relationship and reactivate this connection.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, so on that note, let's just take, if you're driving, please do not do this now. We need you to be very aware. But if you have a few minutes, or you can always return to the end of this podcast, let's just take a seat somewhere comfortable where you won't be disturbed for a few minutes. We're going to just do a little embodied process of connecting with our soul's light, of what it would be like to really have a sense. And many of you maybe already have a sense. And so let's just come together in communion into this deeper place of our soul, of our light, of our soul's essence, and allow that to rewire us. Because every time we open up our consciousness to that, it allows this whole recalibration and rewiring of our physical body, of our nervous system, of our cells, of our immune system, of our gut, etc., etc. It really is a whole process. And this is part of healing, which we're going to cover in detail next time. So let's just listen and sit quietly. And I'm going to use a little bit of sound as well, because sound is a very beautiful transmission of frequencies and vibrations. And as you listen and hear this, just allow yourself to feel, to breathe. And become aware of your body. Become aware of your root, your sitting bones. And your breath. Just noticing your breath. You don't have to exaggerate your breath or work through your breath. Just noticing. Just letting the sound come in. Yes, and just breathing. And as you're noticing your breath and noticing your root, the sitting bones that you're sitting on, your perineum, just bring your awareness into your perineum, into your sitting bones, into that pelvic floor, whatever you're sitting on. And let your body just start to rest, just for a few minutes. Just in this moment, no matter what's going on in your life, you're just giving your body a tiny little pause. Everything will be there when you get back up. Just for a few minutes, just letting yourself rest in this place. Giving yourself like a little time out. And just breathing and allowing. Breathing and allowing. And sometimes you feel your body a little heavier. Sometimes when you start to do this, you'll feel maybe some aches or pains or tension. And so just in this moment, we're just allowing all of it to be there. To be there, we don't, no agenda. This is not about fixing anything necessarily. It's just about coming into presence first with your physical body. Coming into presence with your breath, noticing that in many ways you're being breathed, right? You're being breathed. You don't always have to remember to breathe. Something greater than you, this matrix that's all around you of consciousness, of love, of essence, of that which I refer to as the Great Mother, is all around you. And it's breathing you, right? It's always breathing you. It's supporting you. And so starting to become aware of just that fact starts to shift your mentality, starts to shift your perception of being supported. It's like, I am supported in this way. I am supported. I am not here alone. I'm being supported. And feeling the rest of your body, physical body. Again, and however it's presenting, this moment is presenting right now. And also realizing that it shifts and changes, and sometimes we feel a tightness in one area and then we breathe. Something changes, something opens, something else comes to the surface. And so there's this ever-changing dance with life that's going on in our physical bodies, it's going on in our mental body, in our emotional body. And so we don't have to give anything a label. We can just be present with what's moving right now. What's moving right now, what's presenting. Maybe as we're doing this, you're feeling different emotions in your body, in your awareness, in your heart. Maybe there's thoughts. Maybe those thoughts are creating pressure. Maybe there's judgments or criticism. Maybe there's a sense of not doing it right. And so we're just allowing ourselves to see all of the colors and flavors and thoughts and emotions. There's so much. There's this beautiful axiom that says we contain the universe within us. We think we're a small star, but in reality we contain the universe within us. And so just open your perception to that. Even if you don't know how or why, doesn't matter. The minute that you allow yourself to open up to that reality, just like you allowed yourself to open up to this process of, okay, let's see how it feels to be in my soul. Let's try it. The minute you give yourself permission to awaken your consciousness to something new, it starts to inform your reality. So you start to become aware of things that you weren't aware of before because you've given yourself permission consciously to a new reality. And so just noticing everything that's going on within you. And breathing and saying everything's okay. You don't have to give a label of good or bad. It just is right now. It just is. And as you start to settle into that, notice that there's a deeper aspect of yourself that is in many ways witnessing your feelings, witnessing your emotions, witnessing the sensations in your body. And that witness is an aspect of your soul's consciousness, is your light. And then tuning into that place within you that starts to kind of be underneath all those other sensations or feelings. And if you invite that aspect of yourself, your essence, your light, your soul, you allow yourself to start to feel, well, what does it feel like? What does that actually feel like in my body? And maybe you feel a little bit of peace coming in. Maybe you feel safe. Maybe something shifts and you're not quite sure what that is. Maybe your body feels a little relaxed. Maybe you feel a little bit of joy. I have to edit this a lot. And so just letting yourself feel that, and that starts to give you a glimpse. It starts to connect you with your soul's light. And really that is the source of the essence of love that we feel. That is the source of compassion. That is the source of joy. It's also the source of safety, of your power. It is the source of the universe. It is the source that created us to begin with. And it starts to inform your reality, inform the rest of you. It starts to weave the light of your being through your conditioning, through the old places of fear, of limitation, of survival. And it starts to create. It starts to create within you and outside of you. And you can let yourself be aware that your breath, as you breathe even in your normal day-to-day processes or daily activities, that your breath is connected to this realm of the divine dimension within you. And so just by connecting to your breath for a few minutes each day, each moment when you feel disconnected or when you are needing the peace, the joy, the love, the strength, the clarity, the inspiration, the safety. So just give yourself those few minutes of connecting with your breath and inviting this deeper intimacy with your soul's light, with your light, with consciousness. Because this is the place that connects, receives, is infused with the consciousness of all, with Source, with the divine essence, with the Great Mother. And the more that we cultivate this in our minds, in other words, open our reality to say, okay, this may be something that's true. I may not know what it feels like, so let me explore it. Let me cultivate it. Let me try it. And you'll allow yourself to come home to yourself, to come home. So I want to thank all of you today for listening, for taking this mini deep dive with us. And this is the process of creating deeper intimacy in relationship with ourselves, with the wholeness of who we are, and with this feminine principle, and bringing her back online. Because as we do this ourselves, we then transmit it to the world, to everyone around us, and it shifts the consciousness on the planet. So thank you.
It was so beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And so thank you. Thank you so much for listening. If you love what you're hearing, please help us to spread the word by subscribing to our podcasts, by writing a review, and by sharing the podcast with every single woman that you know. You can also learn more about the work that Michele and I do. You can join our tribes. You can buy our books. You can explore the various workshops, the circles, events, and training programs that we offer. You can find all of this information on consciousfemininerevolution.com. So again, thank you so much for joining us. We are sending you all of our love and peace and courage for this revolution that we're in, for these times that we're in. And remember, you were born for these times. Thank you. Peace.